Wait, were they sponsoring people? were they sponsoring people? Yes? What the So these guys are making bank. I think Season of Discovery was literally Blizzard trying to discover what works in Classic WoW. And I think they learned a lot of things, and I think some of those things that they learned about worked. Since Season of Discovery, there's been like private servers coming out that have been making their own sort of custom content. Notably, there's Turtle WoW, which just got nuked with this massive lawsuit. And this isn't like a normal like cease and desist type of shutdown that had happened in the past with Nostalrius, that had happened in the past with some of these other private servers, right? Like Gummies, Burning Crusade, whatever, right? These cease and desist type things that have come about. Those of you guys who don't know me and my history, that's where I come from. I come from the private server scene. A lot of people keep saying Esfand on Nost. I actually didn't play Nost. I started playing after Nostalrius. They should hire these people. I think it's a little bit more complicated than that. What I do think they should do is I think they should consult with them. And Blizzard did consult with them in the past. They consulted with the Nostalrius team. There was a big Nostalrius postmortem, whatever. I've been thinking a lot about this and how I became known. I guess I was known in a very, very small pond of like the Elysium, Lights Hope private server community, but I ended up getting banned because I was doing private server content. I got DMCA'd. Very notably, I was on the Blizzard shit list. I then switched away from private server stuff, not necessarily playing it because I still played, but I didn't make the private server content anymore. And what I did was I made Classic WoW content off of private servers. I talked about it and I did all that. We started the podcast. And so that's kind of where I come from. This Turtle WoW lawsuit is a lot more heavy-handed than I believe what happened with Nostalrius, with what happened in the past. Because before what it was a cease and desist. Now what's happened is that it's an actual full-blown like, hey, we're bringing the hammer down. And there's a lot of key differences between what Nostalrius was. So it was like Nostalrius, and then eventually went to Elysium, which then turned into Lights Hope. And then you have Turtle WoW, which was made by the same people that made Elysium originally, I think. Or some of the same people. I don't really know all the details, but what I do know is this, is they came in and they wanted to shut down Nostalrius. Nostalrius conceded and was like, okay, cool. And then they kind of worked with Blizzard to have a meeting. They did like this big post-mortem thing. It was good. This was a good thing for the WoW community, for the Classic WoW community, for the people that wanted vanilla WoW. What's happening now is a little bit different. Nostalrius was kind of seen as like a sort of passion project, I would say. Whereas Turtle WoW is, hey, we are now changing the game. They've been like trying to code custom stuff. They've been adding stuff in, making like ads and stuff for it, right? Like it's being advertised and they have like a cash shop. Now there's like a very public financial transaction that's occurring as well, which I think is what's making this so different, because Blizzard's coming in and Blizzard has to protect their IP, right? So I learned about all this stuff. I started learning about it in 2018, 2017, then to 2017, whenever I got knocked, about like, how does this stuff kind of work? I ended up getting knocked for the DMCA stuff. And really the core principle of the whole thing was what? Blizzard has to protect their IP. If they are made aware of something and they don't go out and protect their IP, then legally there's grounds for them to be able to have a case against losing that IP. Yeah, Nost was very much, if you're not gonna do it, we're gonna do it ourselves. Yeah, pretty much. But what has now happened is Blizzard is coming out with the big guns. They're going after them legally. I do have the document here, actually, and I wanted to go over it today on stream. Yeah, Blizzard Entertainment versus Turtle WoW. The real purpose of me wanting to do this is to prove to you guys that I can read, which is like kind of cool. A lot of people don't really like actually know that I can read because I don't do it that much, but I learned how to read in school. Since then, I've kind of stopped reading, but there's this big ass document. We're talking 50 pages, kind of going over everything and really explaining what is going on here and why. I think it's important to look at like the different paragraphs and the different notes of like what they see as grounds for pursuing legal action. So first off, this is like the intro, right? We're like, okay, this is this. And this is how we're going to describe everything. You know, Blizzard, WoW, MMO, whatever. And then they explain Blizzard has taken steps to protect its valuable intellectual property. So this is protecting their IP. This is what they do, yada, yada, yada. So what they're saying is the people that they're going after, they've built a business on large-scale, egregious, and ongoing infringement of Blizzard's intellectual property as set forth in more detail herein. Defendants are the key members of a multinational business enterprise known as Turtle WoW. Through Turtle WoW, defendants have found a lucrative way to exploit and profit from the popularity of the WoW game experience. Specifically, Turtle WoW purports to offer to the public paid access to a group of unauthorized emulated private WoW game servers, as well as all the software and other tools necessary to access and use these emulated servers, including pirated copies of WoW that have been specifically modified to work with its unauthorized servers. So what this is saying is simply, hey, they've made these emulated private servers, getting money from it, They've modified the work and they're trying to resell it, mimicking and modifying the normal mechanics by how they get to Blizzard's WoW servers. Turtle WoW's unauthorized servers. Unauthorized servers. I like, that's a new one. We had undocumented, we had private, we had now unauthorized. We got a new one. Unauthorized servers. Harm the player experience several ways. By way of example, these unauthorized private servers drive away otherwise dedicated WoW players, introduce security risks to players, fragment the WoW player community, and create confusion as to what are official supported versions of WoW. Yeah, I mean, actually, these are true. When a player moves on to an unauthorized illegal server, such as a Turtle WoW private server, and has a negative experience, including security breaches or inferior player experience, that confusion damages Blizzard's official WoW brand and results in significant loss of revenue for Blizzard. Private servers such as Turtle WoW also encourage and facilitate video game piracy by allowing players to avoid paying for the game experience, and Blizzard has invested so much time. I would like to think that I mean, this is all like legal shit, right? A lot of times when it comes to like this legal stuff, they like bring the house, okay? They just send everything. Like, I would like to think that somebody is not stupid enough for this to be the case. I'm probably wrong. Damaging official WoW brand because it happens on a private server. But yeah, they're basically trying to go through and when it comes to like a legal sense, they're trying to set up all the damages, right? Turtle WoW is among the largest and most sophisticated private WoW servers available today. Turtle WoW purports to offer not only Blizzard's original WoW game, which it refers to as vanilla, but also a fan-made expansion story that delves deeper into exploring the original lore of the game and seeks to enhance the game by adding content. Yeah, which this is all we all know about, right? So it's like, it's being advertised, it's being sold as something else entirely. Recently, they've been brazenly escalating its efforts to cannibalize and disrupt Blizzard's WoW player community. For example, increasing its social media presence, partnering with video game influencers. Wait, were they sponsoring people? were they sponsoring people? Yes? Dude, what the Okay, that's crazy. That's actually crazy. So these guys are making bank. These guys are getting paid, is what's happening. So Turtle WoW is just raking it in, isn't it? I mean, a YouTube ad is one thing, but like sponsoring a streamer or like a YouTuber for it. If you want to avoid doing things to insinuate you're making a lot of money, don't hire influencers. Yeah, that's crazy. They had ads playing on Twitch too. That is crazy. I had heard they had ads. I mean, I'd seen it on Twitter, some things. That's crazy. Violent events of racket. Ooh, RICO. Okay, racketeering, influencing, corrupt organization. Oh shit, they're bringing the heat. Oh shit. Okay. Okay. So they're pursuing RICO charges, which is like, they're going damn. Okay, so they're full sending it on these guys. Blizzard is informed, believes that on basis and on that basis alleges that defendant AFK Craft Limited is a company that registered in Hong Kong that proposes and owns and operates the Turtle WoW servers, especially those servers located in Southeast Asia. Blizzard has reviewed the AFK Craft like Turtle WoW is an underfunded fictional shell company that operates as a mere alter ego of individual defendants servers to hide the identities of the individual defendants while also like, the frick? Oh, so here are the screenshots. So they made their own launcher. It takes you to this. This is so interesting to me. Defendants also prominently display Blizzard's distinctive logo. Yeah. Including the trademark symbol. Or was it R registered? R is registered trademark, right? Racketeering activity was effectuated, carried out, and are made possible by defendants' regular and repeated use of the resources of the enterprise. Those resources include the creation of and access to unauthorized modified copies of WoW client software and servers, a trove of common marketing and promotional materials for Turtle. See, I don't, dude, they went to, like, why would they do this? I feel like this was not a good idea. Like, I'm gonna make a profound statement here and say I don't think this is a very good idea. Yeah, so question, how does this compare to running a GTRP server? Ooh, that's a can of worms that I would love to talk about. I would love to talk about that. That's a big can of worms. Let me get through the rest of this document and I'll get to that actually. Basically, Blizzard goes through, explains all the reasons for why they're bringing the house on these guys. And they're saying they've infringed on Cataclysm, Wrath, Burning Crusade, and all this stuff, right? Date of registration, November 29th, 2004. Wait, what? Hold on. The trademark was registered for World of Warcraft on November 29th? That's not right. Oh, its last updated original filing is older. Oh, okay. Because the game released on the 23rd. Yeah, initial release date, November 23rd. That's why I was like, what the hell? Oh, so it was first, World of Warcraft was first filed in 2001. Interesting. That's so funny. So I mean, I don't know. Dude, am I getting old? Oh my gosh, I'm getting old. Why is this interesting to me? Dates are interesting. The game came out 7 months before I was born. Dude, same, actually. That's crazy. So let's talk about, you were talking about how is this different than a GTRP server? What it comes down to is UGC. Yeah, I'm opening the can of worms. So what is UGC? User-generated content. So user-generated content is the concept of providing a platform, providing tools for your community of people that play the game to actually go through and be able to make content for the game itself. So some examples of this would be something like Roblox, like Grand Theft Auto Online. It's actually funny that you said this, Croden, because I want to talk about this. So if you guys are familiar with our good friend, Chris Kaliki, okay? Good friend, Chris Kaliki. This guy's one of the GOATs, dude, okay? Chris Kaliki, big time. He was a longtime dev at Blizzard, ended up starting Notorious Studios. They made the game Legacy, Steel and Sorcery, which is a lot of fun. But he put out this tweet. It's crazy. I remember this tweet and I didn't even like it, but I... So it's funny because Chris Kaliki actually talked about this. The best next step with WoW would be to give players the tools and methods to create their own content and servers. You could still require the sub for all players playing on official servers, but then you'd have endless content and save a ton on dev costs, and it'd be the first UGC MMO. I don't know if it would actually be the first UGC MMO, but like it'd be marketed as that. Rockstar has the tools for people to be able to host their own servers, right? Like that stuff's all out there. Their copyright is protected. Whereas with Blizzard, this is not something that they provide. Might be a good idea, actually. Blizzard just doesn't care about the community. That's why they get salty about private servers. Well, I mean, I think it just comes down to money and protecting your IP. I think that's it, period. Do you really need UGC for WoW? It would shift everyone's idea of what Azeroth and World of Warcraft is. Yeah, like I said, I don't know if it's a good idea or not, but it's super interesting that you said that because I saw this post from Chris Kaliki, and I think it's very interesting to think about. People want to make their own private servers with their own custom content, their own sort of events and this and that. Well, what if, just like GTA Roleplay, just like GTA Online, Blizzard had the means of being able to provide people with the tools to do that on their own, and then Blizzard reaps the rewards. Like somebody asked earlier, do you need a sub to play on a private server? You don't, which is kind of a key issue. So what if you required a sub to be able to play, and then you gave other people the tools to be able to run their own servers? He's right, that'd be the best strategy. That's literally the Roblox model, and look at how they're doing. Yeah, I mean, Roblox hits 47.3 million concurrent users, the highest ever recorded on a gaming platform, beating Steam's 41.2 million peak in March. Yeah, now, I mean, Roblox isn't doing great all the way around, right? But in terms of what matters here, we're talking about here, yeah, Roblox is doing great, right? In terms of this. Imagine you had your own sort of like custom tournament servers where you can come up with a rule set or something, and you'd have to have people code it and whatnot. There'd probably be a lot of red tape and little things you'd have to You'd have to cross those things that I don't even have the means of thinking about it, not even right now, but there's things that I don't even know about that are probably going to be issues. But it could be cool. I think it could be really cool. Goldshire Bathroom Realm. I mean, I think the idea of it is interesting. I don't know if it's good, but it's interesting. People coming up with different servers. We went through this in 2016. I say we, I wasn't really involved yet. I didn't really start till 2017. The community went through this in 2016, the Vanilla WoW community. Is this gonna happen every 10 years? Where somebody wants something, it grows, it turns into a thing, and then every 10 years it's like, okay, well now you gotta go through the whole damn dog and pony show. Maybe, right? And now we're there with Classic Plus. Period, point blank, end of discussion. This whole thing snowballing into this 50-page court document, into Turtle WoW going through and sponsoring streamers and YouTubers to make content about it. At the end of the day, it comes down to one thing. People want to play Classic WoW, and they want it more, okay? They want Classic Plus. They want this. This is something that people have been asking for. And you know what? Not only that, I've said this from back in the day. Blizzard did a lot of good with Classic 2019, but there was a lot of things they missed the mark on. Some of it, it's gonna sound like I'm beating a dead horse. They missed the mark on progressive itemization. This is something that we pushed really hard for. We pushed for progressive itemization. They didn't do it. I think they missed the mark. We pushed really hard for a more fleshed out patch cycle. Originally, there's 11 patches. It starts with 1.1, goes all the way to 1.12. They announced 4, A lot of people, myself personally, talked to Blizzard about this, and we convinced them to increase. I said 8. I asked for at least 8. They ended up going with 7. Okay, they went with seven patches for Vanilla WoW. This is in Classic 2019. So that was good. That was something good that they did, right? They saw that this was like, okay, this is gonna go poorly. Let's add some more patches and let's flesh this thing out a little bit better. Another thing that I think they did miss the mark on, and some people are gonna hate that I say this, and I said this years ago. I made a YouTube video about it. I did a 2-hour stream talking about it. It was my most disliked YouTube video at the time, and it probably still is. And it was me saying Classic WoW does need changes and you have to account for the times. I do think you need to account for the times. And that's something that we saw with Nostalrius. That's something that we saw with Elysium, with Light's Hope. We saw it with Northdale. We saw it with Turtle WoW. You see it with Epic. You see it with whatever the private server is. You account for the times. But the feeling of what Classic WoW is, no changes is something that people think about and they remember. But the truth is people don't really know about all the facts. They know what they feel. And then whenever you try super hard to have things be so specific and like factual no changes, and this is something I tried to talk to Blizzard about this years ago. I said, people say they want no changes, but they don't want factual no changes. They don't know. They want the feeling of no changes. They want to feel like they're playing the game they used to play. They don't want to, they don't care if like the armor values are exactly right. They don't care if all these little things under the table are exactly right. And I know this because on private server, it wasn't done this way. On like Nostalrius, for example, they bumped up armor values for the bosses because they were like, the scaling's too high. Now that people know how to play a warrior, now that people know warriors aren't tanks only, and they understand how the scaling of it works, especially after the rework that occurred in patch 1.6, they're a lot stronger now than they were. Well, especially Fury Warriors, right? And as far as PvE goes. I'm talking strictly from a PvE standpoint. I actually think Vanilla WoW's patch 1.12 PvP is very well balanced, way more so than people give it credit for. The game's not balanced around 1v1s. It never has been. Even in the 1v1 scenario, it's pretty decent. And the way that you fill in those breaks in the balance is with professions. Anyway, just to keep from talking about a whole separate thing, I think Blizzard missed the mark in 2019 with a few specific things. On the flip side, when Burning Crusade came out, in 2021, was it? They missed the mark on Burning Crusade on launch a little bit. A couple months in to Burning Crusade, they accounted for the times. And Burning Crusade Classic ended up being abso-freaking-lutely incredible. Unreal. When you got Glad? When I got Gladiator. Yeah, when I got Gladiator. Safe Glad a week before the end of the season. I went to Korea after that and still got Gladiator. Yeah. What did they change with TBC Classic? I'm bonus biased because they did some specific stuff for Paladins, right? Dude, I'm telling you, I begged these guys. I was on both knees. I was going to town, okay? Hey, listen. I was happy. I got my seal of blood. I was good. But even like other things some of the things that I didn't agree with, and you guys are going to think I'm probably crazy for saying this. Some of the things that I didn't agree with at the time, like I didn't agree with the boost. I didn't agree with the level 60 boost. I was wrong, actually. I realized by the end of Burning Crusade how many people I was playing with that were like, yeah, I wouldn't have come back for Burning Crusade if it wasn't for the boost. Or like, I didn't play vanilla, but I wanted to play Burning Crusade, and the boost ended up bringing them into it. I was wrong, 100% about that one. Another thing was PvP. Having the PvP, the factions be able to play against themselves in Battlegrounds was a big deal. That was something really good that they added. Another thing that they did that was really good was the meta of arenas in Burning Crusade changed from season to season because of just the way, just the gear that is made available to you, yes, but also they were very smart about making the changes they needed to modify the balance. Like season 2 of Burning Crusade Arenas was horrible. It was really, really bad. And a lot of it was because of the prevalence of double healer and how strong it was whenever you coupled it with like the engineering stuff. What they realized is the engineering stuff, like the boots, the belt, all that stuff, was a lot more impactful for a healer than it was for really any other class. So you would end up having Druid, Priest, Warlock, Druid, Priest, Hunter. And you would have these like double healer comps that were just basically like dampened comps. And they were really, really bad. So Blizzard comes in, they're like, F no changes. This is stupid. We're just gonna get rid of this. Season 3 ended up being incredible, right? I was talking to Zico about this at the World First race. I was talking to Zico about this and he agreed 100%. Zico's like, dude, season 3 was incredible and season 2 was ass. So I think there's a lot of people that feel that way. And Blizzard did such a good job of monitoring that meta and having a hands-on approach in Burning Crusade more so than they had in vanilla. In vanilla, they wanted to like set it and forget it as much as possible because so many people were so adamant about the no changes thing. And this goes with all WoW, all versions of WoW, whether it's retail, whether it's classic, whether it's this expansion or that expansion. An MMO is something that it's like a baby. MMORPGs are like, are any of you guys parents? Type 1 in chat if you're a parent. Type 1 in chat if you're at a 2-year-old. So, I'm not. But I know a lot of people. All the parents are saying it. I'm not even one of them, but all the parents are saying it. I know a lot of people that are parents. And everybody that is a parent that has ever had a 2-year-old baby knows that this thing is like a ball of chaos that is trying as hard as it possibly can to kill itself. Okay? This thing is trying to discover new ways to end its own life at any given time of day. It's insane, okay? You have to monitor this baby 24/7, otherwise it's gonna get itself in trouble. And MMORPG is the same way. You have to be very hands-on, you have to be very active with the approach. And that's really, this kind of ties it all back in. That's really why private servers got popular, is because they were so hands-on. Again, talking about Nostalrius, talking about the OGs with Nostalrius, with Lights Hope, with Elysium, all these different servers. They were hands-on and they were agile whenever it came to, hey, we need to fix things. Hey, we need to make changes. Hey, this thing's being exploited. Let's make a change. Let's make a change. And that's what you need with Blizzard. You didn't really have that as much with Classic because, one, I don't think Blizzard expected Classic to be as popular as it was. And two, I don't think Blizzard wanted to spend the resources towards Classic at that point because they just weren't made available. There's probably as many, if not more, people playing Classic WoW today than there are playing Retail WoW. And when I say Classic WoW, I'm talking all versions. And the reason why I say this is because the amount of different ways you have to play Classic WoW made available. I think if you add up everything, you probably have at least as many, if not more, people playing Classic. However, I think that Retail WoW is the cash cow. I think Retail WoW makes the money. I think Retail WoW is what brings home the bacon. It's monetized a lot better. You got the new expansions. When I say monetized better, I'm talking about the boost, the transfers, the faction swaps, all that stuff. Do I think Turtle WoW is gonna be able to fight this? Probably not. You're talking about Microsoft. Okay, Activision, Blizzard, Microsoft. I mean, they're bringing in the big guns, right? They're doing Uncle Rico charges. They got Uncle Rico lawyering up for this. Just like it happened in 2016, man. It's very clear that people want this. It's very clear that people want to play Classic WoW. Very clear that people want to play Classic Plus. For me, it's something that's always gonna be like very special to me and something very close to my heart. You have Classic WoW available for people to be able to be played the way they want it to be able to be played, because that's really what the game was at its core. You know, like over the years, it's been like meta to hell and people are min-maxing this and min-maxing that. And there's a lot of like cultural, like community stuff, but really like what the game was is it was a game that you could come in and you could play and you had people who like to level, you had people that like to raid, you had people like to world PvP, eventually in Burning Crusade, you had people that wanted to arena, right? You had battlegrounds. If Blizzard is doing this, if Blizzard is shutting down Turtle WoW, right, which legally, to protect their IP and for all the reasons listed in this 50-page document, obviously this is something that they're gonna have to do. But if you're going to do this and there's so many tens and hundreds of thousands of people even that wanna play this type of game, I really think Blizzard needs to provide it. And I really hope, I don't know if they're gonna do it, I hope they are. I know they came out with that survey not too long ago talking about Classic Plus and like, what do you want to see out of Classic WoW? There's been a lot of rumblings of like people have been talking about the idea of a Classic Plus, whatever it is. I mean, they even did Season of Discovery, right? So like they've done some research with it. They've done the things that they want to go out and do to be able to kind of survey the audience. But the provision of Classic WoW is something that I think is very important. If you can take the provision of Classic WoW and if you can really learn from what Jagex did with old school RuneScape. Now, I don't think the old school RuneScape method of Classic WoW, of Classic Plus, I don't think it's good. I think that works for RuneScape. RuneScape is the type of game that it's not like for a lot of people, RuneScape is like 1,000-hour game, a 10,000-hour game, right? That just goes and goes and goes. WoW is not that type of game for a lot of people anymore, even with Classic. You level much faster. It's a lot less grindy than something like a RuneScape is. And the scope of what the game entails is very different. They're two completely different types of MMOs. And I think that if you were to come out with hey, like a survey system of like a voting for what features you want in this and a voting for what features you want in that. We've seen it for years, man. People don't really, like people will ask for something and then it'll be provided, but then it's like, wait, we hate this now, right? Good example of this is like PvP scaling, right? The gear scaling in PvP that happened in retail years ago. And then the PvPers, like everybody wanted it because they were like, well, you know, we want gear scaling so it doesn't feel like if you don't have the gear, you can't compete. But then what ends up happening is they provide it and then they're like, well, now this kind of sucks because now I can't like build out my character and like get gear and now it feels like gear is meaningless. And it's like, yeah, but that's what you guys asked for. And I think this is something that Blizzard has done for years. Sometimes good, sometimes bad, but they listen to people and people say they don't, but I think they do. Sometimes Blizzard listens to people too much. I think what you need to do as Blizzard, I think you need to listen to what people want. And your job as a developer, your job as a dev, is to hear what they want, what they're asking for. You don't give them what they're asking for. You find out why they're asking for the thing that they are asking for, and then you trace it back to the problem, and then you come up with a solution for that problem that fits the scope of what your game should entail. That's what I think needs to happen. I think a developer needs to do that. A lot of times you have communities that come out and they misconstrue what they want because they say, we want you to listen to the community. And it puts devs in a situation where they're like, okay, I want to listen. But then the results don't match up with what they asked for. And it's because they didn't go back to that. They need to retrace their steps and hit that point. And they've done that sometimes, actually. They've done that sometimes well. And other times they haven't done as well. At the end of this whole thing, I don't know what's going to happen with this lawsuit. I think more than likely, I mean, Blizzard's got the big guns. They've got the heavies out there, okay? They're going to full send it on these guys and try and shut it down, sure. But that's one thing. Blizzard is going to do what they're going to do as a company. I get it. But the community, provide the community with a thing that people want so bad. People want Classic Plus. They really do. People really want Classic Plus. Blizzard needs to do it in a way, and I don't know, maybe I've thought about it, man. I've thought about going back and making videos like the old days, man. Going back to 2017 Esfand, going back and making videos. I've thought about it. Yeah, going back to old private server Esfand style. Hey, I'm gonna make videos and talk about like what I think they should do with Classic Plus. What should they do with Classic Plus? What should they do with, okay, you should change these talents like this for this class. You should add this, you should do that. Because my general idea with Classic Plus is what if you took vanilla WoW, but then vanilla never ended? And you rescaled the game and kind of retooled the game to that level 60 sort of experience, but then you kind of add some things in from the other expansions, right? Maybe you add a few zones here and there, you add a few dungeons here and there, you add a few raids here and there. And maybe I'll go into this in another video. It really depends. It depends on what I really feel like passionate about. And I'm telling you, man, I mean, I miss talking about what I want Blizzard to do with Classic and all that. So maybe we'll bring it back, man. Make Paladins, look, guys, give Paladins flying, okay, flight form. They shoot lasers from their nipples, okay. They crack open Ret Bulls, okay. They can become the Ret Bull. Ret Bull gives you wings, like back in the day. Yeah, no, that's great. I know this firsthand. I have played with people that are on the Classic WoW dev team. I have played against people that are on the Classic WoW dev team for many years and years ago. You have people that are very, very, very passionate about vanilla WoW, about World of Warcraft, about Classic, incredibly passionate. But they need support. They need support. They need help. I saw what happened with Sod. I mean, Sod was kind of cool, but when you were playing Sod, it kind of felt like I was playing on a private server. It felt like I was playing like a modded version of WoW with reused assets, with, hey, let's kind of retool some stuff and like throw this in here and throw that in there. It felt kind of scuffed. And I know help costs money, but put an artist on the team. Give these guys some support. Look, it's just like a Retribution Paladin. All right? They just need a little bit of help, a little bit of support, okay? Give them the tools they need. Back these guys up, all right? Give them, hey, You know what? Hey, throw him an onslaught girdle. Let's give him a two-hander, okay? Give the Ret Paladin some gear, all right? And maybe they can do something with it. Look, I'm telling it like it is. Give the Classic WoW team is like, I feel like they're the freaking Ret Paladins. Just give them some gear, all right? Look, they can do some damage, all right? They can melt faces in PvP like a Shadow Priest, okay? Dozens of DPS will come their way, all right? Dozens of damage. But that's what it is, man. Like, we played Scarlet Enclave. Scarlet Enclave, great idea. But they didn't have any help. They didn't have like new models, anything new to add in, but they worked with what they had and they did a pretty good job. I mean, I thought Scarlet Enclave was fun for what I played of it. But just give them some support. How many devs are on the team? Like 10? I have no idea. But it's not very much, I'll tell you that much. It's not very much. I really hope they do a Classic Plus. Yeah, I mean, let me know what you guys think, man. I'm sure we're gonna make a YouTube video out of this. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'm very, very passionate about Classic WoW, and it's where I come from. It's how I started making content in the first place, back in the old private server days and all that. And maybe I didn't go super in depth into it all today, but I try to keep it mostly to the discussion of Classic Plus and the shutting down of Total WoW with this lawsuit and all that, or like the attempt at it, or I don't know how it's gonna pan out. Please subscribe, leave a comment, let me know what you think. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy it. You guys can see me live on Twitch. I do everything. I do all kinds of stuff. I do more things than anybody else on the website, and it's the worst thing in the world. Yeah, hey, look, hey, it is what it is.